you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning. And there she goes.
I knew you were going to do that. Good morning. I was like, unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. All right. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. It is Freewheeling Friday. Question day. Question day. And we're just going to have a little fun today and laugh at the silly season. So because I went off the rails, I said, you know what? Last night I was look at that Fox poll, and I'm just like, these people have no shame, right? I'm going to show you what they did. I'm going to show you what they did. All right. And then for those of you who doubt me, I knew there would be some of them. Of course, we don't have a lot of time to collect a ton of responses, but behind Laura's back, I took the Rust Belt poll questionnaire. She was really pissed when she found out this morning, but I wanted to do it to show you, okay, the difference between when you reach representation, even if it's a smaller sample, which I incredibly did with a smaller sample. But I did it but I had practice with the Rust Belt poll. So I knew the targets and the quotas to reach in Ohio that I wanted, that not what we wanted, what we knew we needed. All right. And then we're going to look at the exit polls in 2016, in 2018, and the voter files. All right. Because I wanted to show you what the Fox poll did. So we collected about 400 responses. I just was like, I'll tell her in the morning, right? Yeah. So we collected about 400 responses when I weeded out about 30 or so, whatever it is, about 30, to upload to MarketSite to show you what the raw data looks like when you reach representation in Ohio and what possibly could happen in order to reach a Biden +5. All right. Now, I personally will tell you my opinion, which is I think the Fox poll people know exactly what they're doing. I think they are well aware. You can't blow the Midwest like they blew the Midwest in 2018. And it was not good in 2016. The national poll was relatively close. People are always wrong about that. The national polling numbers were not as bad as some may think. It depends, though, because if you remove a couple of ones that the media doesn't typically like, then it does look like a bigger lead for Hillary Clinton. But generally speaking, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by about 2 points. All right. And the Fox poll, I believe their final was 4, even though they routinely came out with Hillary +6s. The state polls in Ohio, they underestimated Donald Trump by about 5 points, which is currently Joe Biden's lead. Then in 20, it was clear they had a problem. It was clear they had a problem reaching representation. And if you are a watcher of this show, you know what that is. It is their data collection mode that they choose to use because they refuse to acknowledge that it is not the gold standard. It is great to reach a certain group of people, but you don't have, if you're a media company, you don't have an unlimited budget. You're not going to be able to do what we do, which is remain in the field until you reach representation. Although I don't know why. Fox is what? I mean, a what is the value of Fox? It's probably, I don't even want to guess. I don't know why they don't have enough to collect more than 700 responses in Ohio. All right. In Ohio, by the way, in the Rust Belt poll, Ohio represented 23% of the Rust Belt poll. There are a lot of votes in Ohio. There's only one more state that's bigger than that, and that's the state of Pennsylvania. There were about 5.5 million votes in 2016. And there was only one state with a bigger number of total votes, which was Pennsylvania. Michigan represented 20%, slightly less than Ohio. All right. The exit polls in Ohio, despite what the media polls showed, it was never going to be a D+2, a D+3. That was never going to happen, even though we ourselves fell into that trap, which I always tell you when I'm wrong, right? I always admit and I always say, this is what we did incorrectly. I think in Ohio in 2016, I'd have to go back and check. I looked last night just to be fair to myself. I don't think we ever got above Trump +5 either. And our final was Trump +3. Our polling was D+2 because we didn't wait correctly for the southeastern part of the state and the and Cuyahoga's electorate. All right, we overestimated how much Cuyahoga would be. And we didn't believe the voters in the southeastern part of the state, the white working class in the southeastern region of Ohio. We didn't believe them when they told us the crossover vote was going to be double digits. And we came in, we were D+2, and our final poll was Trump +3. The difference was we course corrected. Fox News did not. And they raced into 2018 with the same not gold standard methodologies. And they blew big races in the Rust Belt by indefensible margins. Not, you know what? We didn't realize Braun was going to win by 6.5 points in Indiana. We didn't realize that. So ours was Braun +1 or Braun, which was maybe a 5-point miss like they did in Ohio. No. Their Indiana polling was Donnelly +7. +7. That is not defensible. You are doing something wrong, but there's no way at this point that they're going to convince me they don't know this. There's just no way. When you make so many big errors like that, when you are so wrong like that, there is just no explanation for continuing down the same course. There is no explanation. By the way, Missouri is also the Midwest, considered the Midwest. We don't have it in our Rust Belt battleground poll. It's not a battleground. It's not really considered the Rust Belt, but it is, Southern Midwest, but nevertheless the Midwest, gate to the Western world, right? It was once the far west of the United States. Okay? And bottom line, what did they do in Missouri? I was McCaskill and Hawley tied, which they routinely released. Hawley and McCaskill tied at 43. Hawley and McCaskill tied at 44. Funny how McCaskill never got above that range, but Hawley was over 50. That race was never competitive for the private polling that we did. And by the way, I'm going to ask somebody to release these polls. North Dakota, Missouri, Indiana, I'm going to ask the client to release these polls because you will see the duration is right in the same duration you saw the Fox polls. They were just wildly wrong. So what are they doing to be wrong? Again, without telling Laura, because she got mad, and I knew she would. I said, I just want to collect a couple hundred responses in Ohio, and I just want to put it up tomorrow on the show. Okay? So we did. And I collected about 400, and you got to bear with me here because I'm going to switch between screens quite a bit. When we did the Rust Belt poll for the Epoch Times, okay, a couple of days, the raw data was about D+2. And then as it started to fill out, and I've showed you this before, all right, it always looks roughly the same, but I showed you this before. It was a rough D+2 until things began to fill out. Yesterday, we had worked out kinks, so it wasn't that bad. That's yesterday. All right, this is the Rust Belt poll, almost identical. It may be, actually. I mean, those shades. All right, so we knew where to go. Point being, the distribution is not only Cuyahoga County and only Cincinnati and then Franklin outside. All right, it's just, and I guarantee if the Fox poll would release their distribution and the way we did, that they would not be as filled out as we were. I mean, I can almost guarantee it because I took some time to go over there. I guarantee it. And I took some time to go through the crosstabs and look at what they did. Ultimately, there are +2. In 2016, Ohio was actually R+3. All right. I was like a little bit blown away myself. We were thinking it would be more like D+2, but things have changed. There was an alignment. You catch on to these alignments or you don't. That is what makes or breaks your accuracy. Coalitions always shift. The only consistent thing about political coalitions is that they are consistently changing. And we did not, we caught it. We just didn't catch it to that degree. And Ohio was R+3. In 2018, when Republicans lost the House of Representatives, several battleground states, noteworthy, Florida and Ohio, did not move. They did not shift with the nation as you would expect them to have shifted. In fact, Ohio got more red. Yeah, independent swung. They tightened. All of the polls showed what I'm actually going to show you here too. Our own results and the Fox poll as well. If you look at the Fox poll, Biden is winning independents. And that is generally what you're seeing here, right? It's where you're getting these responses from that matters. And I know it jumps right out at me because Donald Trump is only winning 3% of the Democratic vote and 21% of the independent vote, which they weighted down to, well, they didn't wait for a party. It's where they're getting them. And then when they add the leaners, they lean, and it's only 10% independent. The independent vote in Ohio will be 29-30%. That is ridiculous. And Joe Biden is taking 7% of the Republican vote. This immediately jumps out at me because before we actually reached what would be considered, okay, this is representative of the electorate in Ohio. That's what it looked like, right? That's what it looked like. Democrats, maybe 5-6% going to Donald Trump, even though 3%, that's ludicrous to me. That tells me it's skewing even more Metro than it should. And then GOP going about 7% to Joe Biden. That is actually what we saw first before we could get out into the rest of Ohio and find enough working class voters. By the way, both men and women. Women, white women, are voting not at the same margin, which is why it's tighter in our poll, in the Rust Belt poll, and even in, you'll see right now. I'm being very generous with weighting. Let me just bring in 2018, to put rosebud on this puppy, though, when Ohio did not go the way the polls said they were going to go, and they did not follow the nation to the left 8 points, Ohio was R+5. Okay. Here is, before I show you the results of just like 400 responses that we collected, I want to show you the voter file, because at first you'll look at the raw and you'll say, whoa, That is not, that sounds crazy to me. Okay. Here is the voter file for, oops, sorry, Laura, I'm going to remove you. Okay. Yeah, you're gone. Here is the voter file. Sorry about that. It's just that,
It's all gravy.
It's all gravy, baby. All right, here's the voter file for Ohio, and I just looked just to show you. I clicked nothing. I'm excluding the dead and people who have change of address flags. Very default. That is the default setting. That is the industry standard. All right, 6.8 and change, almost 6.9 million individual records. Let's hit refresh. This is a casting what we say is the very broad brush. All right. Now, there is a lot of inference in this because of how funny Ohio is. And then if you don't have registration correctly, you get booted off, right? It's weird. All right. In the end, though, Republicans are about 39, actually nearly 40% combined between inferred and known, right? And then Democrats are less than, let's see, 28.7 plus about 29.4 and change, right? That's it. 29.4. So about 29% of the electorate. And Republicans are about 40. It's almost so roughly roughly R plus 10. And that sounds crazy. I know it does. It sounded crazy to me too. But as somebody who's been looking at these voter files, not just recently, but over years and years and years and years and years, this has changed dramatically over 4 years. And in fact, it really started to change in 2016 during the Republican primary. And I should have known that it wasn't going to be D+2 in 2016. I should have known. But I was being more erring on the side of caution and being more about, conventional wisdom. This is the voter file. This is not my opinion. Ohio has really gotten this Republican part on a partisan level. In 2016, again, R plus 3. In 2018, R plus 5. And in the last 2 years, if you guys follow Larry, he goes over these registration changes with you. And then you have to do, it's funny with Ohio because you have to allocate some of these voters that if they're inactive, they get bumped off into the other or independent, really unknown category. All right. And you'll see them, they're a little bit over, they're about 31%. But when you allocate who we know they are, they really fall to about 29%. So actually, right around where the exit polls have had them over the last 2 election cycles. It will not. Well, you know what? You never know. I'm just saying that the Fox poll is R plus 2. But it's really only R plus 2 because they allocate so many of those independents, leaving independents to be just 10% of the vote. And then when you couple that with where they're gathering these responses from in the state, it does, what I see in their results does make sense because that's what would happen to us too. Difference being we didn't go in some tiny little part of the state. It was everywhere. And I'm going to show you what the raw was right now. And like I said, bear with me for a second. Because I got to switch, but I can only show you one at a time. All right. Bear with me because it's important first. Let me show you just the simple raw. Okay. This is the simple raw. Add in the screen. I just want to make sure I don't add show them the variable. I want to give away what goes on here. All right. Let's look at just a quick crosstab that I created. This was uploaded. It's basic overview. I haven't touched it yet. We're not going to include the weighting variable, which I'll show you what that is. Okay. I will show you what it is. I didn't change around the ordering of stuff. It'll upload what, there's another thing that jumps out at me. Look at how interested in each one of the voters are. So to the Fox poll, Biden voters are more motivated and interested than Trump voters. That should be an immediate flag. An immediate flag. Okay. Republicans are a little bit less certain, I would say. But in the end, overall, Ohio is roughly, partisan interest is roughly the same. And they're going to vote. It's one of the more higher certainty states. Okay. I'm going to get rid of, I just wanted to show you that real quick. But let's look at the presidential election. Okay. If the election was held today, this is, like I said, maybe 30 people get screened out. So it suggests turnout will be high. That suggests a high turnout election. Okay. If you look at this is the raw vote. There is no weighting done here for age. And just to tell you, which I'll show you in a second, the raw is too white. So it makes sense. It's high 80s. That is not right. We're going to change that. We're going to weight this. And I'm going to show you the difference. It's also, though, too female. Not surprised. To tell you, if you watch the show, this is not a surprise to you. Females are more willing to take surveys than men are. All right.
To talk, ladies.
And it is about almost identical to the voter file, Laura. It's almost identical as far as party breakdown. I'm going to show you all of that soon. And then I'm going to do what I don't do, which is wait for party to give Joe Biden a better chance of closing this gap. Okay? Because this is the raw. Donald Trump, 49%. And if you round up, actually, it's 49.5. Joe Biden, 39. It's Trump plus 10. All right? This is just the raw. It's Trump plus 10. And actually, the raw is not as unrepresentative as it would be if you called people on the phone. And why is that? Because we set targets and quotas. Okay, so the target and the quota in Ohio, and let me get that actually. Let me just type that up. It stinks I can only show you one thing at a time, but it is what it is. The sampling design, where are you? Where are you, sampling design? Come on. I just shared it with somebody a minute ago. I mean, it's, I just shared it with somebody. Oh, I know where to get it from. Go to Big Data Poll. It was same sampling design that we used for the Epoch Times. All right, so there it is. The sampling design and quotas for Ohio were male 221 we targeted, females 239, 18 to 29 83. So generally about 48 52 men. So it's two female, and it happens. It will happen, and there's that's just the way it is. The point is you cannot have it get out of control where you're targeting 47 52 47 53 female and it comes back 40 60. No matter what you do to wait for that, it's not going to be sufficient. All right. 18 to 29 year olds were about 15% in the raw. Okay. In 2018, they were 11%. In 2016, they were actually higher. They were 18%. But they're among the least motivated to vote right now. All right. In, let's see, 30 to 44, about 26%. And in 2018, they were only about 18%, and they were 24% in the last presidential election. So again, right in the realm of presidential vote. 45 to 64 were 37%. They were 39 in 2018, and they were 39 in 2016. So nailed it. 65 plus, 23% basically. In 2016, they were 19, but in 2018, they were 31. All right. And that was one of the Republicans' best groups. For Trump, though, the 45 to 64 group is actually one of his bests. Now, that 30 to 44 group swung slightly Democrat in 2018, but it is one of those groups that will vote better for Donald Trump than they will for Republicans overall. So they don't particularly like the Republican Party, and that's actually where a lot of that crossover comes from. All right, so this is the overall. Now let's wait and waiting. I got to show them before I hit the waiting variable, just so nobody thinks I'm playing some little game here. All right. Let me hit the waiting variable and show you what I'm going to do, which is, by the way, something I wouldn't do. Demographics. If you get demographics correctly, Laura's giving me the eyes because she doesn't want me to give away likely voter secrets, and I'm not going to. All right. You should not wait for party ID. You guys know where I fall on this. If your likely voter model is good enough and your representative, the electorate will tell you what it will look like. If you try to compensate for that, you may do what we did in 2016, which is, D plus 2, and it was really R plus 3. All right? Fox does not wait for party ID, but you can tell from their responses where it came from. It's too educated, and notice they will not give you the numbers for a white working class, for a college degree, for a post-grad degree, high school or less. Why won't you give us the numbers for each of those groups? How much of those groups were each of the electorate? What is their representation of the overall electorate? Is it a secret? You didn't reach enough of them, and you damn well know it. And that's why you're coming up with this. And you put those cute little crosstabs up that tell us nothing. That doesn't reach standard levels of disclosure. Now, they're giving us the actual, it's not good enough for them to, what I'm saying is, there is the sheet that tells you the subgroup, okay? And it says, this one, white, no degree, plus or minus 4% in register. So white, no degree, plus or minus 4.5%. Ohio likely, that's registered. And then likely plus or minus 5%. That is not the same as telling you how much each of these made of the electorate and what you did to wait for their share of the electorate. It's just not good enough. Here are the variables, and here's how it looks in MarketSite. Somebody like a Robert at Trafalgar knows exactly what this tool is. This is MarketSite, all right, and it helps with human error quite a bit, all right? As you can see, I'm actually not going to touch any of this. I did weight down whites to 82%. I increased blacks to 11%. Okay, black share of the electorate to 11% in Ohio. Or no, I'm sorry, it was 13%. I made Hispanics 4%, and Asian or other were the rest. But you could see in the raw, they were very small, all right? I increased 18 to 29 to 16%, which is justifiable. They were nothing in the midterm. They're not enthusiastic now. So 2 points below their prior vote share is not really going to make or break. I did make males 48% of the electorate and females for 52%. And the reason why I did that is because men are much more enthusiastic to vote. They are much more interested, and that we have found in the Rust Belt poll, we have found in our other polling, we found last night and this morning, and we found in the national poll for the Epoch Times. Men are more juiced this year than I can't point to another year where they were more. In 2018, the gender split was even. It was 50-50. In 2016, it was 47-53. All right, so we're going to go with 48-52 just to make it look a little bit more fair. All right. So that's how the weighting variable works. Let's go back to the crosstab and apply the weighting variable and see how much it helped Joe Biden. All right. Oh, and by the way, I made Democrats, which again, I normally would not do. It's education and region, age, gender, race. If you get all that right, you don't have to wait for party. It will be because you have to, pollsters can't just tell the electorate what it's going to look like. This is why I fall on the other side of the argument, which is do not wait for party ID, which Fox says they do not do. If you do not wait for if you wait for party ID, if you do, then what are you going to wait it by? The last exit poll? Exit polls change from one election to another. The electorate changes. It is almost never the same as it was in the prior election. So if you're waiting for party ID, you're putting your thumb on the scale. So we don't do that. When we do wait, Democrats get to 30. I'm talking about just for demographics. Republicans come down to about 39%. Democrats come up to 31%. It's R plus 8. That's all the demographics shifted. The voter file itself is R plus almost 11 now. I know I don't think that's likely on election day either, but you never know. You don't want to tell the electorate what it's going to do. You just got to follow the standard practices, and they will tell you what they are. Anyway, so being very nice, I weighted up to 33 for Democrats. I weighted Republicans down to 38 and independents to 29. R plus 5. What it was last election and less than what the actual raw data is indicating it will be in 2018. Okay? Now, when we do that, am I showing people the crosstab here? Let's go back to the crosstab. When we do that, here's the weighting variable. Because it's so big, you're not going to be able to see. And let's go to gender. Okay? Just so, since gender is so important now, right? Let's go to gender. When we do, I'm going to check this little. So apply the weight variable. As you can see, Trump has like a 10-point lead in this raw. When we check the weight variable, we update it. It will get a little closer. Okay. Let's go to gender since everyone's obsessed with gender. We'll look at party later. All right. So that brings Trump down to 46.5%, brings Joe Biden to 42.25%. Okay. Let's just do 1 decimal point. We're not going to do 2. That's my default because I like that. That's it, folks. That's it. That's a wrap. I mean, if I really wanted to manipulate, oh, it's wrong. How much, it's just, I'm wrong. You know, I think the electorate is lying and it's going to be more liberal. So I'm going to change it. All right. That's what happens. I can't get Biden any closer to that, even if I manipulate the out of the data. Ohio doesn't look good for him. Just like there are plenty of other states that it doesn't look good for Donald Trump. That's not the point. What do we find? What do we find with just these few little responses? Which probably I'd gather 1,200 if I was polling Ohio, or 1,000, maybe 800. Bottom. What do we find? Trump is doing better among Black and African American voters than he did last time, but it's not uncommon. DeWine got mid double digits of the Black vote in 2018. Donald Trump supposedly only got around 10%. But George W. Bush, we have precedent for this. George W. Bush in both Pennsylvania and Ohio did very well among Black voters, just under 20%. For an incumbent president, it's possible. He's getting slaughtered among Asian voters. There's no doubt. He's getting slaughtered. But they're getting much, much more liberal. Because this was a working class sample, Donald Trump's actually getting 44% of the Hispanic vote in the sample. And among white voters, Trump leads 51-39. Very similar to what you will see if you open up the Fox poll, by the way, by race. What's the difference? They're polling metros. They're not getting an accurate representation of the electorate. As a matter of fact, if you look just at the voter file, they could be off by as much as 8 points. I'm talking about just in their party, what their party split should be. And they've been doing this now for several cycles. It jumps right out at me, Laura, because this is what I saw when I compared what we did in Indiana to what they did in 2018. This jumps right out at me. All of a sudden, there's this tiny little share of independents. Their white margin is about 3 points off in both directions. That's what happens when you miss the rest of the damn state. And I'm telling you, I'll call them out right now. Release your distribution. Let me see where you collected those responses from. I want it by zip code. Can you do that? Because I can. With just over half of my responses. Just over half. I'm like 95% that our map is more filled than theirs is. I have my zip codes. Do you have yours? Do you have your zip codes? They always tout, and Chris Steyerwalt goes on, well, you know what? We're the gold standard because we go from voter files. So do we. Do you have your zip codes? You should. If it's a voter file, you should be able to plot. Look, you're Fox News. Maybe you got better tools than we do. You got better tools than we do. You can't plot that on high charts for me real quick? Come on, man. Tableau? Got Tableau? You got something. They're so full of it, Laura. There's no reason. Did anybody get the value of Fox News for me yet? At least million, if not billion-dollar company cannot tell us the representation or the distribution, excuse me. This should be APOR. I think I'm going to email and ask them to do this. This should be because education and region, they know it too. All the conferences, everyone knows it. Education, and they missed the impact of region in 2018, but now a lot of them are catching on to it. They should add to their standards of disclosure or the Transparency Initiative check. Actually, if Fox News filled out the APOR Transparency Initiative checklist, we'd know this because that's part of it. All right. I mean, why isn't anybody calling anybody else out for not following what are supposed to be now the base standards of disclosure? There comes a point, folks, where somebody is so wrong so many times in a row, you have to really, it's laughable. It's completely laughable. Excuse me. Got the hiccups. It's like, and really you have to devalue their contribution to the discussion. Okay. And just to tell people, Fox News is conducted it's a joint poll. And I always loved the idea. And I wish I've looked actually for liberal pollsters because, oh my God, no shocker, I'm not on the left. And I hate to be the spoiler here, but everyone else is. All right. So to pretend like a pollster doesn't have a point of view is a little bit insulting to the intelligence of the American people. This industry is dominated by left-wingers. I would love to do a joint thing like this. I like this idea. And by that, I mean that the Democratic group, Beacon Research, partner, and they used to be called Anderson Robbins Research. All right. Partners with the Republicans, and I'm going to explain this to you in a minute, Shaw and Company Research. And when they say Republican, they don't mean Republican like you. They mean Bill Kristol Republican. Okay. They mean Jeb Bush Republican. After everything we've seen in the last 4 years, what we do know is this from primary shares of the vote that polls missed, by the way, consequently, from primary shares of the vote and historic enthusiasm for this president on his side of the aisle, we know two things. One, these people have outsized voices in the media, but they don't represent the Republican Party. Okay? That's number one. Number two, is there anything really that we can't expect them to do? What I'm saying is there anything that they have demonstrated themselves is beneath them?
No.
Right?
There's no low.
There's no low. Right. So people say, oh my God, are you accusing them? At this point, you're damn right I am. Damn right I am. This is egregious. There is no universe in which Joe Donnelly was leading Mike Braun by 7 points. There's something wrong with your polling. If you don't care after all of these horrible misses, what else am I supposed to think of you? What else should the rest of us think of you? Who do you use to crunch your data like this? You're Fox News. You can't take 10 minutes to do what I just did with people? Is it some secret language or something? Some hoodoo you're not allowed to, tell the unwashed, filthy masses about?
Maybe they're afraid somebody could do their job better.
It's crap. It's like some secretly, they're not too stupid to understand it. And that's the only reason why they must know that. They must have come to that conclusion. And that is why they are not sharing all of this with you. All right. You may have noticed, by the way, that in this, very similar to the Rust Belt poll, in our polling, when you go out and find the rest of the Republican Party and the rest of independent middle America, and not just all of the people in metropolitan areas that think and act like you because you're using a data collection mode to reach them on purpose. I really don't know what else it could be at this point. Donald Trump gets 87% of the Republican vote. Joe Biden takes 4.2%. 4.6 are undecided. Donald Trump gets 12.3 of the Democratic vote, and Joe Biden is getting 83% of his base. 2.4 are undecided. This is why also, even when they called the winner correctly in this state in 2016, they did so missing 5 points to his margin, because if you go back and look, you will see this is what happened then. It will look strikingly similar, only it's exacerbated. And here's why I believe that is, all right? Here's why I believe that is. And the point of that is Joe Biden's getting mauled in the crossover vote in Ohio. Mauled. He is winning the independent vote by a little bit, although there is a large chunk that we found still to be undecided. In this one, it's a little bit more than in the Rust Belt poll, but that's probably because the Rust Belt poll was a larger sample. So the Rust Belt poll was a much larger sample. We just wanted to go out and get 400 responses, or I did, just to prove a damn point. This was 16% of independents in this poll were undecided. Okay. Joe Biden got about 13 more responses than Donald Trump. Nothing big. So Joe Biden is leading with those voters. The remaining 16% have a solid approval, at least, of Donald Trump. It's a small sample, so you don't want to read too much into it. But in the Rust Belt poll, in the bigger sample, it was about 12% undecided. All right. So I suspect if we would have collected maybe another 400 responses like last time, then it would have been a little bit less undecided. That's the risk of trying to do in Ohio is not even that. Let me put this into context to you. I just showed you about 400 responses. Okay. In Ohio, which is, I told you the vote share last time, we're looking at a state that is less than half of Florida, right? Less than half. It will be less than half. And yet the Monmouth poll was 400 responses in Florida last week. Okay. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is the sampling error, is the potential for misses. Okay. And the point being is, it's ludicrous at this point, folks. It's ludicrous. There's no way you wouldn't want to go back and say, you know what? What did I do wrong? How did I get to this result? How did this happen? If you're not doing that after this kind of record of failure, then what else are we supposed to think? We've got it. There's only one thing we can think, was that they're doing this on purpose. End of story. And convince me otherwise. Okay? All right. Look, we blew past the first segment break. There was a couple of things I wanted to go over with the economy, and then we'll get into your questions. I wanted to go over the questionnaire in Florida as well, but can you just hand me the thing, Laura? We don't have to open it up and go through it. I want to see which ones are the questions. We definitely are sticking some of the suggestions. The Supreme Court was added to the list of top voting issues, which is most important to your vote. It was also added to the rank distribution score. We are peeling off race relations separately. Okay, so law and order, race relations. This way we can get a much better idea of people who are picking law and order, whether they're picking that from the perspective of, reform or abolition, or they're picking it from the perspective of more law and order. Now, when you look at Trump's vote share, like when you pick out people who were, law and order was their first choice, he's clobbering Biden among those voters. But let's take out that last bit of confusion. Okay. And so that's what we decided to do. We definitely are asking about levels of fear versus anger versus fear, the integrity of the election, for sure, the Supreme Court, whether or not they think that they should interpret the Constitution or they should look at it more as a living document. We did take that suggestion. And then also whether or not the Senate should give the president and his nominee a vote before, regardless of the election outcome, or if they think they should wait. I actually did like how YouGov worded theirs, because we'll do that. I mean, that's just what I bounce ideas off of other people. They bounce them off of me. That's the way it goes. I just don't. I am going to change it a little bit. We have all this neat little software. I'll show it to you in another show. It's really cool, and it'll tell you. It'll analyze it and say this is not. This is maybe potentially tainting. It's neat. Yeah, we there was one more I'm missing, because after we added that, it got to like 6.5 minutes. I don't know. I already answered that. Oh, adding abortion question.
About.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. Because there was another one I missed that I knew I missed. Should Puerto Rico and DC become states and be added to the Senate?
For me.
That was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
How afraid are you to publicly state your political beliefs? We were going to ask about the mask mandate too, because it's an older state. We thought it would be interesting. And Laura just said, I didn't see this yesterday. I'll try to add yours about abortion. I'll try to add that and then see how big it gets, because if we get over like 8 minutes, we'll cause fatigue, and we'll also get people who are too interested. They're too interested. And if they're too interested, they're not going to be representative of the electorate. So people want to be relatively quick with telling you who's going to vote, how they're going to vote, and they don't want to go through every, what's the word I'm looking for?
To be overly.
Yeah, to be overly, yeah. There'll be high propensity voters, right? There'll be high propensity voters and not enough. Oh, by the way, in this last night, regardless of how you intend to vote, who do you think will win the election? Donald Trump, 51%, Joe Biden, 55%. That's with the weighting variable. Ohio thinks Trump is going to win very handily. It's not even close. And then also there was something else I wanted to, as far as what Fox said. All right. Do you think, is your vote a vote more for your candidate or against it? 60% of Donald Trump supporters, 59.9%, say their vote is for their candidate. Only 33% of Joe Biden's do. Okay. How enthusiastic are you about voting? Donald Trump's voters, 57% are extremely enthusiastic. Only 35% of Joe Biden's voters are. 42% are very enthusiastic. 49.8% are very enthusiastic. Only 39% of Joe Biden's are. And then moderately, so Trump leads him in extremely, very, and moderately. 42.1%. And then Joe Biden, this is for moderately, Joe Biden, 39.6%. Like I said, indefensible. Indefensible. And normally, it's the extremely that matters. The extremely is what matters. Okay? And let's see. Let's look and see the rest. Did I miss anything? I have the concerns about the mental health of each candidate.
And
That's
the Harris question.
Which one? Yeah, I know I'm missing something else that wasn't here, and I don't want to pull this up right now and then bog everything down. I went back to Ethernet today, guys, because I know we were having some glitches. Where is the Harris question? Oh, about the administration. Yes. Oh, that's going to be tied to the question about fitness. That's the plan. And then would you be comfortable with the idea of Joe Biden not serving out the remainder of his first time and Kamala Harris? Yeah, so and then we'll keep you guys posted. Hopefully we'll have some initial results for you of course, because Monday is what are the odds, right? And then Tuesday will be inside the numbers. Oh, quick show announcement. And I'm just going to go until the hour, and then I'll take our 2-minute break. I'm not going to do the half. It's already 10:51 because I have a lot of announcements to get to before we do questions because I'll forget. I will. I will.
Your flaws.
First announcement, I'm going to disappear for a second while I show you what are the odds, the banner for what are the odds. What do you guys think of it? Huh? Questions, comments? What do you guys think? I think it's rad, man. I do. I love it. This guy, like I said, Nick Sapirto from Logos by Nick. He has designed everything for us over the years. He never lets us down. So he said, do you want it to look something like, keeping in the brand with inside the numbers and generally with PPD? And I said, yeah, I think it should. Like everybody should know. And by the way, for those who don't, recognize, the font is a custom font for PPD. It is a version of the font called Acre or Acre. I don't even know. It's a version of that font that has been slightly tweaked and is a PPD font. Okay. We have our own fonts. It's cool. I love it. And when you look at it, it's like you immediately know that it's PPD because, right? This is a lowercase though, as compared to like inside the numbers is all uppercase, PPD is all uppercase. So we wanted something a little bit more playful. So we said, yeah, like inside, and you can see the logo for inside the numbers in the corner right there, right? So we wanted something to be very similar to that. And then he shoots back something very like this. And then Laura, as always, knows where the tweak is. And I even did survey research for inside the numbers. And Laura's logo won handily. I picked a totally different concept. I did a totally different concept.
Awesome. Isn't the numbers inside the numbers?
It's cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. How if you look closely on the logo, inside the numbers logo, it is numbers. He tried to do that with this one too for Laura, but it didn't, it just didn't look right. Right. And he said, there's no way you can do it to make this look okay. And it just looked like too busy.
Idea to tweak this.
Yeah. So he had an idea for like a pie chart on the O, but Laura was like, no. That's cool. And I get where you're going. Poker chip and a throwing die I was like, ah. So she does this. And that's why I always tell people who collaborate, I know what I want. I don't know how to put it into words. And I don't know how to explain it. And that's where Laura's genius has always come in. And that dates back to 10 years ago when we started this thing almost now. I knew people were saying, as mockingly. The People's Pundit was a name given in a mocking fashion. In a fashion, it was like, that a pundit is supposed to be like some like elitist media guy. And, it was given to in a mocking fashion. And then Laura twisted it and was like, no, embrace that, and twisted it. No, that's right. You are supposed to be like that guy who doesn't talk in those ridiculous languages. You're not better than anybody. You're not smarter than anybody, And then she just said, this is what's going to be the name of this puppy, People's Pundit Daily. And I'm just not. And when I hear it, I know I'm like, yeah, but I can't make it. I can't, I'm only creative with music and with outside the box thinking for data analytics, but that's not my level of creativity. That is all Laura.
You know basically what you want.
Yeah.
And what I do is just tweak the creative edge. Like, you remember when People's Pundit Daily, when we first did it, the Y was kicking the Y had it was kicking the elephant. I mean,
or
the
yeah. It was looping back, and back then it was old English. It was an old English kind of font, and that's when we first met, actually, Nick. And he was like, "It could be so much better because you're not trying to be like, you don't want to be like the Washington Post. You don't want to be like the New York Times. They're all those old English, and that reeks of that reeks of establishment media.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, go modern, be modern. And then Laura and him came up with the new PBD and People Spun It Daily. And it was like, when I saw it, I was like, revamp everything. Everything's going. New website, new everything. I
love collaborating with him.
It made total sense to not be like them, because the whole point. So why would you have an old English kind of logo? And I can't believe I didn't see it at first, but anyway, it is what it is. Yeah. Listen, you're going to have to deal with us talking about the font if you don't like it. I just caught that in my eye. I skipped the break. Okay. I skipped the break. So we're kind of killing time here. All right. Let's get into first, before we bounce off to the break. I want to tell them what they got to here. Yep. What their total raise is. And that's why I'm just going to go if it doesn't get there by the time, and I suspect it will, because it's very close. If it doesn't get there by the time, by the time the polling is done, which I would highly doubt, then it doesn't matter. And if I feel like we need a little bit more, then I will throw it in myself. All right. So we're at the grand total of $4,261.65. Booyah. Woo! I can't believe it. Robert was right. You and Robert were right. I didn't think that this would work. Because I had talked to Rasmussen about this, and they said, have you ever tried to do this? And I told them, like I told you guys yesterday, that we did this relying on subscriptions. It was absolutely in the red. It didn't work. We spent much more on polling than we took in 2016. So I said, what I would do is put up a map, do it like exactly what they did. And they raised enough for some states, but overall they said they did not make their target for what they wanted. And so I was very reluctant to do this. And with just a PayPal.me link, you raised almost enough for the Florida poll. I mean, really, because if you want to reach these people the way I'm saying that, and I think there's a lot to be said of this, guys. Fox is a live caller. It's very expensive. For this poll, let me do some quick math. Can I see my phone real quick? For this poll, let's just do the industry. So I'm about to blow them up right now. All right. And maybe they paid a little bit more. Maybe they paid a little bit less. If it's a little bit more, they're going to have a canary. All right. Let's see. What do they say they polled? So they say they polled a subsample of 830 have been identified as likely voters. Let's just say they did 907. They're registered voter. I mean, that's what they did, right? They paid 20 grand for that poll almost, guys. About 18,140 roughly. If we do the very standard $20 response for a live caller interview, they may get a little bit better price because they're Fox News, but they generally paid $20,000 for that poll. Once they get those numbers, 900, whatever they're shooting for, okay, they're not going to go back out like we go out and we say, this one's underrepresented. All right. We could have oversampled this. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And they have, that's a lot compared to what we're going to pay to do the Florida poll. It's a club is my point. It's a club. They don't want to give up a mode and they don't want to evolve into mixed modes because it's a club and they are making, their friends' money and they're all in the circle of trust together. I mean, it's very hard. Like anything else can have an entrenched establishment and an entrenched status quo. That is sadly a large part of the polling industry's problem. And they know damn well the downsides of their methodologies. There's just no way that they don't anymore. All right. So when they go on there and Chris Steyerwalt goes, that's just the gold standard. We're the gold standard. He is either, because he's not a pollster. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's definitely not a pollster. It's a down, and there's really, it's not, I don't say this because one candidate should be leading and one can't. That's not why I'm doing it. This is for the betterment of the industry. You're going to make people hate and not trust us. Soon, pollsters are going to be on the same slime level as lawyers like Michael Avenatti. Like when you every time people, Laura, it just happened right at the DMV the other day. This is the reaction I get. Hey, what do you do for a living? You know, I'm like, I hate saying it. And then I'm like, the easy way to put it is that I'm a pollster. I'm the annoying guy who calls you on the phone. The first thing you do is get a look like starting to get close to the look of people like when you think of a lawyer, like, people hate lawyers, that's where we're getting. That's where we're at. So that's their first reaction. And then the second reaction is, so who's really winning? Right? Mm-hmm. Always. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it goes. All right. Can you do me a favor and for Miss Victoria, check if I can do an interview? What did she just say? Next Tuesday at 3:08 Eastern time. All right. Because she's called. She knows I do this, so if she's calling, it's probably an important one for her. All right.
Tuesday at 3:08.
Yeah, this woman is like really. She's a go-getter. I love her. Anyway, yeah, I like go-getters. I don't like lazy people. I can't abide. I'm never going to be nice to them. All right. I don't like laziness. I don't like being overly sensitive. I don't like smears, people who smear. I don't like that stuff, So,
all right. Are we talking about this coming Tuesday or next Tuesday?
She's talking about next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. That's what next Tuesday means because we're not past. It depends where he is.
You never know. People are special.
All right. So here we go. So anyway, yeah, you never, because it really doesn't matter. This is a shame. I never answer pollsters' calls because I figured it doesn't really matter. You've been tainted by bad guys in the same arena. This is whatever. I don't think that a lot of media pollsters understand that that's what they've done to us. I don't think they understand that. Like that is what they've done. So it's just, for me, this has nothing to do about the candidates. If it was Bernie Sanders, they were doing it too, which they did. And by the way, I did have a melt. If you guys remember the Democratic primary, Joe Biden was not going to win the Iowa caucuses. Yet there was still multiple polls. Biden plus 20. What? He was competitive in New Hampshire. The man came in fourth. I mean, the Democratic polls were bad, folks. They were really bad. All right. I'm way late to the game. And then when they did get on the Sanders train, they were way late to get off of it, like Reuters. All right. They still were at Sanders plus 11 the night before, or something ridiculous, the night before Super Tuesday, when it was very clear that Joe Biden did consolidate. And it was actually, I take that back. It was very clear that Barack Obama and the mainstream media helped Joe Biden consolidate. Because for those of you who don't know what happened, Barack Obama he doesn't like Joe Biden. He does not personally like Joe Biden. He doesn't feel a connection to him. He was his vice president for 8 years for no other reason than that was the politically smart thing to do. He was trying to calm voters, but he has no intellectual connection to him. He doesn't like him. They don't like Kamala Harris. Michelle Obama, actually. I'm not going to do it. I swear I won't do it.
If I was Michelle Obama, I'd be like, heck to the no with Harris.
Michelle Obama doesn't like Kamala Harris. Okay. I'm just saying it. One of these days, it's going to be okay to report on these things, but it's not yet. So we're still here. But generally speaking, Barack Obama always liked, I'm not going to let you do it. Obama always liked Hillary Clinton, and even though they got into a fight in 08 over the primary, like nothing Democrats had seen in a while, they still felt a kinship with each other. They did. Hillary is much more liberal than she let on. And they looked at Joe as like slow and stupid. All right. They looked down on him. All right. And now he saw that Bernie was going to be the nominee. And it's not that he doesn't even agree with Bernie Sanders more than he agrees with Joe Biden. He does. But they were fully convinced that Bernie Sanders could not beat Donald Trump. All right. That it would be a landslide of epic proportions. So he sucked it up and he made the calls. And really, it is not a testament to, because now the Biden crew will brag to poke at Obama's crew. All right. And so, you know what? We won the nomination far quicker than you did. We sewed it up far quicker. First of all, the crowd was not the same as it was for Obama. Obama is a far better candidate than Joe Biden. Are we really seriously going to argue this? But they are. And they're using the favor that he did for them as a way to jab at them. It's really kind of scumbag-like. All right. So they needed him to pick up the phone and call Amy Klobuchar, to pick up the phone and call Pete Buttigieg. He pushed everybody out. And then he called all the organization, all the ground games, and he said, it's Joe or it's another 4 years of Trump. And then, as you know, to repay Barack Obama for that favor, it may have been late, but he did it nonetheless to repay him. They ran around behind his back and behind their crew, saying that they're more competent and they were more successful in winning the argument. I mean, it's great. The media, they only love palace intrigue when it comes to Republicans. They want you to think everything is hunky-dory when it comes to Democrats. And in truth, that is not true at all. I mean, the fact they don't get along, they're a very loose alliance, a motley crew.
Just in the body language between the two.
Yes, you can.
It's very evident.
That's why Michelle Obama didn't make a damn mention of Kamala Harris. That's why Barack Obama didn't mention Joe Biden at all. The convention was absolutely void of that. And that is why they didn't bring up policy. They just talked about hating Donald Trump. Because once you get into policy, the motley crew starts to fall apart. So there's not much they really agree on with each other. And they're held together by, you know, a group of dwindling moderates trying to fight the rising tide of what is a radical left-wing element. It is. Look, that's an objective. That's not subjective. It's objective. And we see it in the primaries. It's starting to take shape in the House. All right. Their chance, you know, and look, you know, it is what it is. You just don't hear about it because, of course, the media wants Democrats to win. So they're trying to show unity. And if they have to talk about that, then they have to talk about what's behind those tensions and animosities and disagreements. And once they do that, man, it all falls apart. So they just can't. They got to ignore it. All right. So my button popped. What do you think? Buttoned or unbuttoned?
Unbutton it.
Unbutton it. Yeah. That's I'm always I did, but I hate buttoning it, so it was so loose. All right, look, now we're over the hour here. I got a couple things I want to say. Like I said, you know what? We'll do the show announcements when we come back. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to People's Planet Daily. Hit that notification bar so you know when we're going to go live. Facebook users, mosey on over to Facebook. Hit the like button. All right. We're doing better, but we could do better. All right. YouTube's becoming its own animal. Love you guys for it. And then, of course, if you're on Scope, we all know that Periscope is pulling down my scopes afterwards. I know you guys are having problems with that. They have stopped replying to me. So I guess they just don't give a damn. So my answer to that is, for the 15,000 or so of you who watch on Periscope, slide on over to YouTube. And in the end, I kind of see where this is going anyway. We're going to have to live stream this through Brid, our own thing, on the PBD. I can see where this is headed. All right. So if I get you guys to get, in a habit of watching YouTube or on Facebook, then it won't be that hard to transition when it happens. All right. And then, of course, the best way to support the show is to be a subscriber. And you can do that by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. I think a couple of people need some shout outs here. Let's see. Fyra R, thank you. Claudia L, thank you. Mark B, thank you. Donald O, thank you. I mean, it goes down the list. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. Let me just collectively say that, like I told you guys the other day, it's really humbling, the level of trust. And I'll do my best. All right. Let me take a quick break with that mushy nonsense. Let me take a break and we'll come back and take your questions. All right. You're watching Inside the Numbers. Hang tight on Freewheeling Friday.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife. So give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Agua, little agua, right? All right. So listen, I got some show announcements here. So of course, what are the odds? Will be on Monday, sorry, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Barnes and Barris. All right. And then we have also a bunch of radio things that I'm going to tweet out. I'll be on Lars Larson tonight at let me get that for people right now. She's about to send me an updated one too. And then Tuesday, though, important. All right. Tuesday, Inside the Numbers isn't going to start until 11 a.m. because I'm doing a pre-taped with the Hill TV at 9:45. And it's only a couple of minutes, but I'm thinking that it'll buffer up against it. And because I said, all right, let's push it to 11, there may have been another thing that was booked at 10:30 or something, but I'll tweet them out. So, if you want to watch them or listen, then it'll roll right into Inside the Numbers, because that's only there. These are only like 10-minute, 15-minute slots. I think one of them was like 30. But that's it. All right. So I'll of course tweet all of that out and then be a way for you guys to, because shockingly, some of these like FM radio interviews that I'm doing, you guys are in these areas, right? So 2 of you listened in Wisconsin. You got some of you listened in the 2 interviews in Wisconsin. There was some in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia yesterday. All of these great slots. And then again, I'm sure a ton of Lars Larson is. We'll be on that tonight, and I'll get you the times for that and put that out. I tweeted it already. I just I can't remember. 6:45, right? 6:45. That's right. Because I said it better be early in the night because I have plans later tonight. Today is technically Laura's birthday. And I got her an early birthday present, but I'm going to take her out to dinner later tonight. the two of us, because we never get
Just the
time.
two of us.
Just the two of us. Make it if you try.
Okay.
Here's an update.
Butcher them.
All right. That's an update. All right. I put the double dollar signs in there. Let me get rid of that. But that's where we're at so far. And we may have actually, there was a couple of them that came in a little bit ago. There may have been a couple of them that did it before. So we're just about there. I want to do, it's not going to be an $18,000, $20,000 poll like the Fox poll was, but we will do online. And I just want to be able to call, there's older minorities in Florida that you cannot reach doing online panel. You can. It's just that sometimes you just don't reach enough. And it's possible that I'll look at it as it's coming in and I'll say, millennial men, they're a little tough. And by the way, just to tell you the survey design on this so far, okay, let me bring you up. This is not the questionnaire. I'm talking about what we're going to try to get. Here we have quotas that we're going to try to reach. Florida is so big that it's not good enough to target 18 to 29. Okay. It's not good enough to target 30 to 44. We break it down from 18 to 29 is broken up into two groups, 18 to 24 and 25 to 29. We're going to target, that'll be about 7%, 18 to 24, about 4%, 25 to 29. So we actually are going to break it down into little groups. That should make, like I said, if you hit all of these targets and quotas for basic demographics, age, gender, education, race, region, if you hit these basic demographics, you don't have to touch party affiliation. You will never need to. And if you have to, you did something wrong. And that is the side of this argument that I come down on, and I firmly believe it. It served me well in 2012 when all my Republican friends were telling me, it's too Democratic. It's too Democratic. And I was saying, maybe it looks and appears to be too Democratic. But, Black women specifically were telling us they were going to vote at much higher rates than they had typically. And in fact, that was the first election in the history of modern politics, modern American politics, when Black voters outvoted whites as a share of the they outvoted whites. So they represented an oversized share of the electorate. And a lot of white voters did not vote because Mitt Romney was a plutocrat or a technocrat. I always get people say, no, he's really a technocrat. No, he's a plutocrat. He's not the guy to drive out working class white voters. And he missed millions of them. He left them off the table. All right. All right. So that's where we at. That's where we at, people. If we do get by Florida, I did see another request for like New Hampshire, Maine, Arizona. Maybe if this is the way it's really going to be, I'll put up one of those little maps and we'll do like smaller states. So it's not that much. And I'll say, all right.
Want New Hampshire.
They want New Hampshire. I know
So
they do.
far.
I know. And Arizona too, because there has been the public polling in Arizona has been Biden favored. And again, did you guys see the update? I don't know if you saw the statewide, and then Maricopa was brand new. Remember, if you were watching the show earlier in the week, I opened up the voter file and I was like, whoa, actually, Maricopa is actually almost R+5 now. And the last time we had looked at it, it was like 3.8 or around 4. The newer registration numbers hit and it updated, and I didn't know. That's why it was actually more Republican. Republicans, same thing in Florida. Oh my God, we have to look at this. We just went over this, okay? And what happened is that the August 31st numbers came through. So now I had to update it. And I told you before, when it was about an advantage of 260,000 for Democrats, that was the smallest advantage in the history of partisan tracking in Florida since 1972. And now here we are again, Florida voter registration statistics. This is the most recent update. Republican 5 million 20,199. Democrat, 5,203,795. The advantage is now below 200,000 for the first time ever. It's 183,596. I have to be honest with you. I did not think that Republicans could get this down below 200,000 before the election. So the D+8s and the D+6s that came out after the ABC Washington Post poll, which showed R+4. People were like, that's ridiculous. And Trump was up by 4. There is, at this point, no chance that the electorate in Florida will be D+8, D+6. In fact, I think it is highly unlikely it would even be D+1 or anything. It is highly likely this electorate is actually going to be more than R+1, like we were projecting. So the ABC Washington Post poll, if you watched the show the other day, I said, R+4 looks a little bit cherry for Trump. And I opened up the voter file and it was closer than I remember, but I still, nevertheless, maybe D+2 tops. It was not going to be anywhere near the YouGovs and the Monmouths. That's just not going to happen. Now we know it's not. It's not. The turnout differential for Florida is always significant in favor of Republicans. Almost always. Except for the exception of 2012, when, like I said, the base did not like Mitt Romney. And they didn't come out for him. And voters came out in force to defend their incumbent president on the Democratic side. When that happened, by the way, the advantage for Democrats was 558,272. He won by less than a percentage point, less than 70,000 votes. In 2008, when he won by 2 points, the advantage was 694,147. When Donald Trump won the presidency, the advantage for Democrats was 330,428. And I thought the last time we checked that 260 and change was already catastrophic for Democrats, but I did not think that Republicans could get it below 200,000. So for all of those who asked the questions on Laura's notepad about what Bloomberg did, and he's going to be investigated for that. The Florida Attorney General is investigating that. He may be in deep trouble. That's illegal. What Michael Bloomberg was doing was illegal. All right. And all of these issues about Amendment 4, I told you when we did get some early, let's call it preliminary data on Florida and Amendment 4 before it was stopped by the courts, it really wasn't looking that great for Democrats. And my point was, Arizona has been like this for a long time. That's not what's making Arizona more competitive. Other states have been like this for a long time, including Republican states. So it wasn't as dire. Now in Virginia, they were much more liberal with it. And it was disproportionate. So the felons who were white, Republicans were actually getting a majority of those registrations. The felons who were black, Democrats got about in the low 80s. I'm sorry, in the low 80s. While Republicans were getting, in the low teens. So in the mid to low teens. So it wasn't even as rosy for Democrats as everybody thought or were projecting it to be. All right. So, the point I'm trying to say is sometimes everything isn't what it seems. In the end, this is catastrophic for Democrats. This registration change. And like I've been telling people, the media narrative is simply not true anymore. The bleeding of white Democrats to Republicans ended around 2016. That has not been what's driving this gap, from this narrowing gap. All right. So I just wanted to show you guys that before we go on to take questions. All right. I'll leave this up while we do, just so everybody remember the blue column at the bottom. these blue columns, represents the Democrat advantage. The column now, folks, is almost invisible. Okay. That is why I like charts so much. Really helps to illustrate things in a way that, just spitting out numbers can do. All right. So here we go. I see Laura is chatting over there with you guys, so I'll give her a second. But whenever you're ready.
I got questions.
Okay. All right. Whenever you're ready, let's roll.
Make me hurt you.
All right.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes? All right. Evan Bliss, do you think the betting odds 46.3% are too optimistic on Trump's chances? Has Trump lost or gained ground with non-college whites overall?
All right. So, I'll handle the mic. Yeah. So I think that the betting odds are roughly around right. I know, on one of the odds, Barnes will give Trump a big chance, but I'm talking about like if it was right now, when we pull Florida and when we go back into some of these other states, we'll know. Look, Monmouth, by the way, just came out, almost mirrored us in Iowa. He's below in some groups than he was in 2016. He is. By the way, for those who didn't see it, Trump is up 6 in the Monmouth poll in Iowa, but then you had like the Siena poll. I just want to talk about and the Fox poll with Ohio. He's clobbering Joe Biden with non-college whites. The margin is less than it's still 20 points, but it's less than it's not 30 points, which is what it was in 2016. However, folks, I will tell you right now, it wasn't 30 points in 2016 either. It wasn't. Ultimately, a lot of the problems with these polls is that they're not reaching a representative sample. So it may look like that, but come on election day, I think Trump is going to kill him with these workers. I think he's even women, white women with no college degree are voting for Trump by a large margin. Barnes and I were going over the Rust Belt poll internally over the weekend, and we were looking at it. It was no difference in some of these states between men with no college degree and women with no college. It was incredible. In Minnesota, no difference. White women, of course. They are adding, and look, Nate, I'm telling the truth right now. If you hear this, Nate Cohen showed you the results of the 2016 electorate vote, and he called it the recalled vote. All right. And in Texas, it's Trump +8. In Iowa, it's Trump +8. In Georgia, it's Trump +8. But in his polls, it's tied in Georgia. It's Trump +3 or 4 in Texas. Blah, 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 blah. Biden +2 in Iowa or whatever it is. Nate is saying to you that there's going to be 20 million more votes at least this cycle than there was last cycle. That has never happened in the history of presidential elections. They are really projecting like 165 million votes, more than 20 million from last cycle. That is what it takes for him to add. So my point being, if the electorate were to look a lot like 2016, which was already compared to 2012, it was a high turnout election. But he is trying to say that we're going to be in the 90s as far as voter turnout, high 90s, folks. Still though, it still doesn't make sense, because what he's saying is those extra voters or new voters are going to be disproportionately good to Joe Biden. So they're not going to be new voters who are voting for Donald Trump almost at all. That is what you have to do to take an 8-point lead in Texas and shrivel it to 2 points, to take an 8-point lead in Georgia and shrivel it to even, to take an 8-point lead in Iowa and make it a Biden +2. Did you see the voting in Iowa in the primary, guys? Democratic turnout was abysmal. Abysmal. Republican turnout was gangbuster. It's going to be even in Iowa? Can we just look at the voter file real quick in Iowa, please? I mean, it's ludicrous. That is ludicrous. It's slightly Republican, R2, R3 in Iowa. And Republicans voted higher rates. the idea that these new I mean, and I do see what somebody's saying about, well, could it be that he's banking on all these votes, these ballot votes, with something, funny going on with that? Maybe. But as like a legit pollster, it's not my job to pretend something that is historically ridiculous to suggest is going to happen. So my job is not to try to compensate for whatever games they may play with the mail-in vote. I mean, that's not we're just supposed to poll the way we would poll for any other election. Any other election. Word two on the exit polls, it's going to be very difficult for exit polls to give any kind of good, accurate information. It just is. I mean, the share of the vote is going to be, really, it's going to be different. All right. So look, it's slightly our advantage. But Republicans, you know what? Let me show you what I mean by that. That's if every single vote was made in Iowa. All right. Let's look at vote history. We could do a propensity score, but actually I'd rather do modeling. So it's just, in my opinion, it's more accurate. So a general election, people are at least 50% likely to vote. It doesn't, and in Iowa, by the way, because it is typically a high turnout, it doesn't even take it down that much. All right. And by the way, in Iowa in 2016, this right here is about 1.5 million votes. That's about how many votes came in 2016. All right. Run the analysis report. While it's doing that, I'm going to load up Iowa, and I'm going to tell you what the exit polls were in Iowa. All right. In 2018, that looked a lot different, by the way. All right. So in 2018, Iowa was, as a party, anyway, Iowa was R+3. It's taking forever to load up for some reason. Let me use the little drop down. Sometimes the JavaScript doesn't work unless I actually used it. Oh, right. We couldn't get exit polls in Iowa in 2017. That's right. I forgot to tell you guys. There were no exit polls in Iowa. There were a Democratic firm did some. And if I remember correctly, it was still, I think R+2 or something. But they were a lot of money. They were charging a lot of money. I got a peek at them, and I just ran with that. So now here we are, R+3, right? 35, 32, 32, right? Roughly. In 2016, it was 34, 31, 35. So again, I mean, much more realistic. What Nate Cohen is trying to tell you is that Joe Biden, who placed, fourth or fifth in Iowa? I mean, he was blown out of the water. He's going, and by the way, a turnout that was horrible. The caucus turnout was not good. All right. And what they're trying to tell you is that this guy, who Iowans looked straight in his eyes and rejected, is going to juice turnout to the point where there's going to be, instead of 1.5 million voters, there's going to be roughly 1.5 million. There will be another 200,000+ voters in Iowa, and they're going to break 80-20 for Joe Biden. That's what he's telling you in that poll without breaking down his math. And he knows it. You know what I'm telling you is true, Nate. So if someone shares this with you, come on the show. You know I'm telling the truth. This is what your math says, and you freaking know it. All right. In Texas, it can be a little bit misleading. In Texas, looks a lot like Iowa with how close the party registration really is. All right. But in the end, when the votes are actually counted, the rolls are dirty. It is possible. That they are trying to compensate for, so like I just excluded the dead and change of address flags. It is possible that they are trying to compensate for that. All right. So if we did, you guys can still see that, right? So it goes 1.69 to in Iowa, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there are 300,000 records in Iowa. Anything above 1.69, would be something is wrong in Iowa, meaning those are not real records. And by real, I mean these people are dead, or they have a change of address or name flag, and they're no longer eligible to vote in the state, or at least it's highly likely for the change flags to not be eligible to vote. Because as I've said before, and I've told you a million times, there is a difference between being registered to vote in the United States of America and being eligible to vote. I will say, Kelly, on that question with young people, Larry may be on to something. And in Minnesota, for instance, they were only about 14% of our share of the vote, which was roughly what they were in 2016. They are among the least likely to vote. And actually, CNN is right. They were right with that that poll, that last national poll they did. They were right. When we polled, we saw it, because there isn't a surge in this 18 to 29 group. They were like mockingly writing that our poll found Trump is doing much better among young people than it's because of who is going to vote. Which young voters? All right. If the turnout was much higher among young voters, Trump will do worse with them. But if it's typical or lower, he will do better with them. All right. Because it's like, which voters are more likely to come out? A younger Trump voter is much more enthusiastic than a younger Biden voter. That's my point. All right. So yeah, I do see this as a very distinct possibility. And that's why they want all of these mail-in things. They need a week to run around and get those back. I'm telling you, they do. They do. And they know that. Ask Ed Rendell what he thinks about Joe Biden's chances of winning the state of Pennsylvania off the record. All right. And he'll tell you. He'll be a lot more honest off the record. That right, Ed? Ain't that right? All right. So here we go. What's next, love?
Long wants to know, Rasmussen has Trump at 52. Is that because of a SCOTUS surge? Sorry.
So this morning, I got a message from them early because we talk a lot. And, hold on one second. Oh my God, the LA Times gave Fox, I didn't even see this. But the bottom line is, all of a sudden now Silver has given Fox an A. They were a B poll. Now they're an A. Guy's a fraud. Folks, he's a fraud. I really don't know what to say. All right. So this morning when we chat back and forth, they shot me this thing, which they don't show their readers. But it was for Friday, the daily snapshot for Friday. And yeah, he was at 52. And they also told us that this is the 10th consecutive day that Trump's approval for them has been over 50%. And that's the longest stretch since March of 2017. All right. So, really, that's where it is. Yeah, I know they do things a little bit different than us. For instance, his strong approval among blacks is about 20%. His strong disapproval is about 60. His strong approval among whites is 42. Strong disapproval is 45. And other, by the way, which includes Hispanics and Asians, his strong approval is at 54. We are finding that he's getting, and they don't break their thing down by Asians and other. We're finding that he's just getting murdered among Asians. Asians have really shifted to the left. Barnes is totally right about that. Okay. Harvard Harris has him at 48 now. Yeah. So yeah. Yes, Matthew. This is what a fraud Nate Silver is. And I know we have a lot of Biden voters in today. I brought people in. I said, just come and listen to the show and just listen to what I have to say. This is not a show for Republicans. This is a show for everybody, because I don't like it when they lie to you either. All right. Circa my son's tennis coach story I told you guys in 2018, guy was devastated. He really believed them again. And he was devastated in Florida. How the hell did he lose this race? Both. He thought Nelson would hold on, but he really liked Andrew Gillum. And he was devastated. Not a single poll had DeSantis ahead, except for us in Trafalgar. They didn't aggregate us. Ours we just put out there. But I gave it all to Jerry Willis. She got every survey, and it was a tracking in the last week. She got every single one. Fox did not. You know, she asked if I would do this with her on Fox Business. They tanked her on election night. They tanked her. So I said, sure, I'll do this with you, Jerry. You can. She's like, because if looks like he's going to pull it out, you'd be the only one who knew other than the Trafalgar poll. And we had it very close, though. I mean, very close. 1 point for each. It was not a DeSantis +3 or although I can see where he got it from. It was very close. And they scrubbed her. Why? Because their job that night, Fox News' job that night, was to use their new joint thing with the AP and the voter analysis to call the House early to hurt voting. That was voter suppression, what they did. There were still people voting out west. But I guess we really all underestimated how much Fox News really wants that debate money next time, and how the DNC boxing them out of a lot of these events and a lot of these news stories and has hurt them, or as they feel has hurt them. And they believe that they have to make their model after Donald Trump, whether he's defeated in November or he's gone 4 years from now. They're preparing for a world that is dominated once again by their friends. So that it's really sad to watch. Laura has something to say about it. I'm going to let her in. But bottom line is, yes, Howley was tied with McCaskill in the Fox poll, no more than 43%. Of course, that was a gross 9-point underestimation of his vote share. And in the end, also as well in Indiana. And why does this matter? These are Midwestern states with large numbers of white working class voters. They're not friggin' finding them. They actually thought Donnelly was going to win by 7. Not thought. They put out a poll. Donnelly +7. They never had Braun leading by any more than 2 points, which was an old poll, and they heard it like everybody else. Donnelly was never ahead by 7 points. Never. I mean, so to give Fox an A+ rating just goes to show you what a freaking fraud Nate the Slimer is. He's a fraud. It's an easily debunked fake math equation. And everybody, I know so many university pollsters, so many of them, speak up. They're afraid of him, right? You know it. They're afraid he's going to give them a C or something.
We were discussing this.
Why? Because the money that goes from the university to their polls. He has too much power. He influences betting markets way too much, although they're pissed off this year that they're not influencing them the way they typically do. This is a game to make money for their friends. And the betting markets are not listening to him this year the way they have in the past. But it will hurt a university pollster if they're not seen as credible or accurate. The funding that they will get to allocate for these polls will dry up. So they're afraid. And there's some good pollsters out there. And they play the game to get like from a B- to like a B+ or something. Just spoke to one. You know who you are. He told you to grow a pair. All right, let's let Laura in. Hold on, I killed your mic.
All right, what I wanted to ask or kind of say along with what you were saying, do you think that they are doing this? This shows such a disparity between the truth and the lies so they can set up if Trump wins again. Because when you build people up like that and then you take away their candy, you get those temper tantrums that you saw on election night, the hysteria, the crying, the unbelief. So do you think they're doing this to try to tank another Trump win if it happens?
I think, guys, that it benefits them in every way. And the only thing that it doesn't benefit is their credibility, but they don't care anymore. That's what I have really come to this conclusion. I mean, again, like I said, they made a cynic out of me. They really did. I just don't think they care. I want Laura on mic more too. I think we should. I think that it helps them in multiple ways. It helps them with the DNC and the not just Fox, the situation with Fox, but everyone, right? And then it helps them with if Trump does win, right, Jason? They stole another one. And they can inject more regime credibility problems into our system like they did over the last 4 years. And then, of course, it helps Joe Biden with fundraising. So he can now go run out and say, see, I'm up in Ohio in the Fox polls. Nobody thought we could win Ohio. That was the president's best state. Give us another $200. Because Joe Biden can't go back to the people who he's raised money for now. This is the problem. He's running out of time. He raised a gross amount of money, but he raised it all from K Street, Wall Street, and China. China's friends. And now the difference between him and Donald Trump is Trump can keep going back to his donor base because the 90+% of them are low dollar donations, meaning they don't max out. These people for Joe Biden, they max. They're maxed now. So he needs this for the Democratic base to keep giving him money like Bernie got him to do, like Elizabeth Warren got him. He never was able to do that. And the reason why you didn't see him on TV or on the ground and you needed Barack Obama to secure that nomination for him is because he maxed out for a primary. And his burn rate was in the 70s or almost. It ended, I think, in the 70s. It was always around like 65%. That's a loser. That's a losing campaign. All right. And the idea that, China has not interfered in this election already is ridiculous. And people like, by the way, I'll give him some credit, Charlie Gasparino, you know that. Because it is China's influence with corporate America that pushed Joe Biden into this race to begin with. It did. Democrats did not want Joe Biden. They thought he didn't have it anymore, like the big names in the Democratic Party. By the way, Barack Obama among them. Joe doesn't have it, unquote. They thought Trump would kill him. He was their last choice. The Chinese wanted Joe Biden. Wall Street wanted Joe Biden. K Street wanted Joe Biden. All right? I mean, Joe Biden is, how much more money he's getting from Wall Street is even more than Hillary Clinton. It's a factor of 5. So for every dollar Donald Trump raised from Wall Street, Joe Biden raised 5. Now, some of that is ideology, and then also some of that, and here's Wall Street donations to Congress this year so far. You can clearly see in the era of Donald Trump, the Democrats are now the party of Wall Street. And they were during the TARP bailouts as well. George W. Bush relied on Democrats to pass the TARP bailout. He had a conservative revolt, and the first vote failed. He relied on Nancy Pelosi and the Paul Ryan wing of the Republican Party to get TARP over the finish line. It failed, and the market fell like 400 points. It was only the party, again, Republicans were only the party of Wall Street again, when Mitt Romney took the reins. I mean, guys, look at the trend. You can clearly see. Throughout the 90s, it was never true to call the Republican Party the party of Wall Street. The party of business, yes.
It should be telling.
Because even Main Street America, Main Street business America, I would say, has always been the party of the Republican Party. They have always found a home in the Republican Party. Donald Trump did not make up America first. That was the old slogan of the Republican Party, going back to when they were fighting FDR and early efforts at globalization. That is just the truth. In the party during the era of George W. Bush, by the way, if you guys remember, he was very much an anti-globalist before 9/11, and then you can clearly see when that changed. Mm-hmm. It is never true. The very, very rich on Wall Street have always been liberal. Always. And then you had like the traders and stuff who were Republican. And now, when I say Wall Street donations, by the way, just to show them again real quick, Laura, Wall Street donations are, and they can't see it with the thing rolling, but it is the securities and investments industry. Okay. So then there's other ones like investment banking firms, hedge funds. Joe Biden leads in all of that. We just did that on People's Pundit Daily, by the way, and I'll send you guys a link if you want. Also, while you're there, please check home sales, that article on home sales. It's amazing. I mean, guys, the media will never tell you this stuff. Home sales have soared to the highest level since 2006. and they were revised higher for July. The housing market is gangbuster, and it's trying to drag us back into a recovery. But from the jobless claim story that's also on People's Pundit Daily right now, you can see what's happening. Democratic governors and Democratic mayors are sacrificing the working man and woman in this country to hurt Donald Trump and to win an election. They have decided that hurting you will hurt his donations and his chances for re-election. So they decided they're going to do it. Joe Biden's also the top recipient from hedge funds, finance, and credit companies, which people who know Joe Biden, that should come as no shock. He has been a stooge of big credit forever. Private equity and investment firms, savings and loans, and venture capital. Hillary Clinton had a factor of 3 over Donald Trump in 2016. It is a factor of 5 for Joe Biden right now. All right. So that's that. Let me let Laura in again real quick.
Questions. So, Red Pill 66, always good to learn new info. Has Massachusetts been polled?
I don't think so.
All right.
I don't, but there's so many votes in Boston. I mean, you know, there's so many votes in Boston and Cambridge. And because those are the kind of people who are going against Trump, you know, look, it wasn't enough. Kennedy, even in the Democratic primary, became the first Kennedy to lose an election in Massachusetts. He won the working class vote handily. But in the end, the city saved him, you know, and that's why I keep telling that same thing with New York. All right. I mean, guys, there are 9 million votes in the city of New York. Yes, the rest of the state probably will go pretty heavily for Donald Trump this time. But it's like a bit of a pipe dream. It's not the same New York. And that's why people like us who are native New Yorkers, we're not there anymore. It is not the same state that Ronald Reagan won twice. It's just not
happening. All right. Irish girl wants to know any sources on Lagoa.
Laura, I'm not going to do this again. He faked me out.
All right.
They faked me out bad on Kavanaugh. And not like I ran a PPD with it or anything, but we did think we knew who it was. And he totally faked us out. With Gorsuch, that was totally blindsided. A total blindside. Gorsuch wasn't really even at the top of the media's talking points. And then with Kavanaugh, he was in the running and was known to be in the running, but he was thought to have been eliminated. And then later, obviously, we found out he was not. All right. So we'll see. We'll see. I know the media and I know what the reports are, that Barrett is the choice. I know that that's the report. I'm just not going to play that game again. I'm not playing that game again because he got me so bad last time.
All right. James wants to know, what level of turnout are we talking that becomes the tipping point in the 4 Midwest battleground states? Also, do you have any idea how the Gary Johnson voters are breaking in places like New Mexico?
I don't know in New Mexico, but I did warn everybody about allocating automatically Gary Johnson voters for Donald Trump in places like the Midwest. In truth, that does seem to be helping Joe Biden quite a bit. And now that they removed the Green Party candidate from Wisconsin and Pennsylvania's ballot, but left Joe Jorgensen on there, it was clearly a chance to pull 2% off of Donald Trump. And some of those that went for Gary Johnson last time, particularly younger Democrats, they are going for Biden this time. So that's that's part of what is Donald Trump's challenges. Now, again, like I always tell you, things don't happen in a vacuum. So doing better among minority voters is certainly helping to offset some of that. And he is doing better among all minorities except for Asians. All right. Hispanics. At first, I thought that poll showing him leading among Hispanics was a joke. There are places in the country where he really is. I mean, they're not monolithic. So in more working class areas of Hispanics and more conservative Hispanic, he is doing very well. But I would say the tipping point really is like, you know, in 20, we actually did this. I just got to go back and look at what it was when I sent it. Hold on one second. Okay. It looks like we're looking right now at about 145 million. Okay. Which would be about 7 million more votes. We are not seeing this 90 plus million turnout. It looks like the mid 80s. Now, even if it was, I don't know that I could say there's a tipping point, because it's possible that if all likely, so it was like 100% turnout in the Rust Belt, you would see that 6-point lead for Joe Biden. And that's what that meant in the difference with the Epoch Times poll. But of course, that never happens. It never happens. And we're looking at around 83 to 85%. You know, that is, you know, that's really more realistic. You know, so maybe 145, maybe 150. Yeah, it would be a lot, guys. I mean, go back and look at the difference in turnout from one election to another. It's not what people are suggesting. Even in 08, you were talking about 12 million more, something like that. George W. Bush, there was millions of more that jumped on to the polls in the difference between 2000 and 2004. And again, all of the pundits thought that's going to help John Kerry, because there were so many voters that didn't vote in 2000, but it didn't, because there was an alignment people didn't see. And a lot of Democrats voted for George Bush, even though the polls did not suggest that was going to happen. And George Bush did better among minorities than anybody thought was going to happen. Sound familiar? If you go back and look at the polling actually from 2004, even the ones that were right were not right for the right reasons. They weren't. And by the way, what did I say before? I meant like, 87, 86, 87, maybe 88% is what I meant for turnout. All right. Because the midterms, it was up there. It was like 62%. Some places already had hit 2016 levels. All right. So, all right. Yeah, that right?
Works for me. All right. Brian. Yeah. It seems their strategy is ballot harvesting coup. How to not let this happen? You got to get to your poll and watch them, man.
Yeah. She answered it.
All right. So,
well, it's really too late.
But if you really want to do something, I would suggest go be a poll watcher and do your civic duty.
That was a great suggestion. She just answered it. Next.
Great minds think alike. All right, Ben, do you think Trump is going to VA is a serious play or an attempt to scare the Biden campaign?
I think it's an attempt to help Virginia 7 and other places like that.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that poll from Christopher Newport, and like I said, I did not mean to mix them up with Hampton, but Christopher Newport was like Biden +5. Damn hiccups. I'm like plagued by hiccups. Yeah, I do think that was an attempt to help them in the House. If Trump closes the gap to like 3 points, I wouldn't be shocked. But VA is it's a heavy lift. Now, I was just laughing with Laura last night because we were talking about Virginia and the possibility of it. And when I went to D.C. Recently, last visit to D.C. for something, the taxi driver is like, he's like, you know what, man? He's like, I'll tell you what, man. If it wasn't for all these stupid white people in Loudoun County and all the other rich white people, he's like, you got to get rid of them, man. Forget about us. We work for a living, man. We're going to vote for Donald Trump. He's like, if it wasn't for those idiots, this state would go for Donald Trump. He may go for him anyway. You watch, man. You watch. Right. And I'm like, oh, no, Virginia's pretty hard, man. You got a lot of votes in Northern Virginia. Right. And he's like, that's what I'm saying. Throw out those stupid white people and we'll be better off. He's like, why everybody blaming the immigrants? He's like, we love this guy. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, Laura and I just were dying. It was so hysterical. And he's right. Actually, there are immigrants, of course, that are not working immigrants. They're more professional, poorly educated, but highly educated, that are those kinds of professionals and postgrads, academic. Those hate Donald Trump. The working is very different between like a working Sikh or a working Paki. All right. And I don't know if that's a derogatory term or not. He was a Paki. He called himself a Paki. There's a very big difference. Okay. They were very, all of, I mean, really, they loved him. And they're not, I mean, some of them are afraid to tell you, some of them aren't. He's right that it really is those like upper crust, white, Loudon five family kind of people. That used to be a Republican stronghold when the Republicans were, going back to the chart that I showed you before, when the Republicans were the party of Wall Street. They love them. Now, they are not, their allegiance is not to a party. Their allegiance is toward a class. So that has shifted to the left quite a bit recently. I mean, quite a bit. Republicans haven't won Loudoun County since Bob for Jobs, Bob, but McDonald, who later got a political persecution. He was the target of a political that got thrown out by the Supreme Court, but they destroyed him because they were afraid Bob McDonald, who won in a landslide in 2009, was going to run for president against Barack Obama. That's why they destroyed Bob McDonald. And he was a clear favorite. He would have won the state of Virginia when Mitt Romney could not have. And because those voters like Bob McDonald. Mitt Romney was not that kind of person, even though he did better in that area. He was not the kind who could win Virginia because he would never have been able to get the turnout in central and western and southern Virginia that Donald Trump did. So it's like you really have to be able to do both. And McDonald did do both. He did. And he would have killed Barack Obama in Virginia, Laura. He'd have killed him. He may have had a harder time in the Rust Belt, but he would have took Virginia back for a time. Now it's just gone. The trend is solidified. I mean, it's like forever gone, but it's hard. I would not get my hopes up in that state if you think Trump can carry it. He can tighten it, but it's hard.
It's a hard look, but not impossible. So I always say have hope, but I'm the optimist. Let's see. Ken Roeder wants to know, will we be updated on Senate races?
So that depends on what the Epoch Times does. I'm not sure yet. In Florida, obviously, there's nothing I can do about that there. If we do, like some people are suggesting in Arizona or Maine, I will ask the Senate race. Yeah. So yeah, he won by 17 points. It was a big win. So if we were to do Maine or Arizona, where there are two very big Senate races, we will ask about the Senate. All right. So that's the answer to that. All right. We'll see how it goes.
This David Cruz wants to know, will you release the Rust Belt state polls individually? That's up to the client.
That's really up to them. I wanted to, and I haven't heard back since, and I'll give you guys the insight on this. They just wanted the raw, and it would not have been an accurate portrayal for each state. So there is a way to weight each state because each state has to be weighted for region individually. Okay. And I'm hoping we will do another Rust Belt poll. My advice and my suggestion to them is to dump the idea of national polling and let's just focus on the Rust Belt. If we keep up the Rust Belt poll and instead of leapfrogging like we were doing, national Rust Belt, dump the national and just track the Rust Belt every 2 weeks. Then the sample sizes, because it takes so long to gather anyway, will start overlapping in a 7-day rolling average. All right. And even if they were to kick it up just a little bit, maybe I'd even, contribute to that for them.
The only pollster that takes a pay cut.
Yeah, I'm the only pollster that takes a pay cut, but I would do it just to be able to get more like a 3 or 5 day rolling average. And then we would have vote shares for each state in solid sample sizes, right? 800, 1,000, it would be big. With this one, I asked them if they wanted to do instead of what they were asking to do, that we would give them those projected vote shares. And we did come up with them. But we just haven't heard back on what they want to do yet. So, I mean, I can tell you that Iowa was somewhere in between Seltzer and Monmouth. It was not 6 for Trump in Iowa, but it wasn't tied either. It was a modest lead for Donald Trump in Iowa. Ohio was 11 points different than the Fox poll. Do the math, okay? And then, which is generally what I just showed you this morning. There was no way to get any closer than 6 points in Ohio for Joe Biden, okay? And then Michigan was much tighter than I expected, which was just a hair to Biden. And then Pennsylvania was like a little lead for Donald Trump. And Minnesota was a little lead for Joe Biden, around the sampling error. So if you look at what the sampling error is, it almost mirrors Joe Biden's exact lead in Minnesota. Okay? Those are the most hints I can give you. Did I miss one? Oh, Wisconsin is where Joe Biden got his strength from, actually. And again, like I told you, in 2016, this happened to us in Wisconsin as well. It was constantly like a Clinton +6, Clinton +5, and it wasn't until the very final stretch that some people decided and it put him over. All right? And that's what happened. And by the way, we didn't believe it. Like Larry Schweikert says all the time and tells the story and wrote in his book. We did it. He was like, what's the last one? Hurry, hurry, hurry. And I gave it to him and he's like, all right, good. So that rounds up to a point. It's Trump by 1. And I was like, Larry, it's been Clinton +5 and Clinton +6 for a while. It's possible. This is not right, And because I didn't believe it. And then Wisconsin was the first to fall on election night. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be right. Oh my God. I mean, when you're under pressure like this, because the entire media apparatus is coming up with Donnelly +7s and Biden +5s, it gets stressful. But I was pretty sure we were right. This time is going to be with that ballot harvesting. I mean, like I said, all we could do is poll like we would normally poll. That's all we could do. And Guard of Liberty, just to let you know, that Michigan will count ballots for 2 weeks. That's part of maybe why Biden does have that edge in Michigan that we found, because and there was just, I got asked by somebody else, like Washtenaw, he was doing a little bit better in, even though Trump was doing better in Monroe than he did last time. He was doing better in Macomb than he was last time. There's our mail, for the love of God, finally. There was some areas like Saginaw and Washtenaw where he was doing better. Biden was doing better than Hillary Clinton did. So it is possible, even though Wayne was not fantastic for him, by the time they count those ballots after 2 weeks, that's the difference between 33% for a Republican and 27% or something, which, don't be surprised if that's what happens. So I was comfortable with the roughly Biden around the margin.
All right. Let's see. Does Luna have a chance in Florida?
That's a heavy lift. That district, if you want, next week, we could go over some districts in Florida. I think Anna Paulina has a real chance. So that's somebody who can put up a fight against Charlie Crist, especially if Donald Trump does take Florida by 3 or 4 points, which we're going to find out this weekend how it's been. I see the Real Clear Politics thing already today on ballot problems in PA. They made a catastrophe in the making.
Mm-hmm. Persuasion Pirate, how many questions are in our poll, the Florida poll?
I'm trying to keep that down. It's currently at like 34, and I'm going to remove some because some were in the Rust Belt poll that I'm thinking that, we wouldn't really want to add. It may not be appropriate. I'm trying to keep it. Personally, guys, I like 25 because you got to add all those demographics. So maybe a few issue questions, the ballots, and that, and it adds up quickly. But I'm willing to go into like the low to mid 30s in the Florida poll. I always get skeptical because I don't want to see if that abandonment rate goes up. You can't do anything about it. It's too late. You can't pause the survey, and you just got to suck it up. It stinks.
All right. Let's see. Olaf, do you think that the coming debates will change a lot?
I think there's at least the potential for it. This is why I was saying too, and I know a lot of people on Twitter got pissed. It's just tough nuggies, man. The last 5 out of 6 incumbents did not do well in their first debates. Donald Trump does not have the luxury of doing bad in the first debate because of the voting changes this time around. Barack Obama got killed by Mitt Romney in the first debate. George W. Bush, he got murdered by John Kerry in the first debate. Bill Clinton did beat Dole, but that's, I mean, really not even we can't even make that as a comparison, Bob. Normally, candidates are equal to each other, roughly anyway. Bob Dole was not an equal adversary. Bill Clinton mopped the floor with him in every single debate. And then, of course, Herbert Walker Bush, and he went on to lose. He looked at his watch like he didn't even have time to be there. It was embarrassing.
Yeah,
it was
bad.
embarrassing. And you should always worry about the incumbent not being prepared because part of it is they're too damn busy being president. And then the other part is a certain degree of arrogance. It would be a huge mistake. I am saying this right now. It would be a huge mistake for Team Trump to rely on Joe Biden being a retard mentally to be able, to carry him through this debate. He better prepare for this debate because just to let people know, senility gets worse as you're under pressure. So that's why Joe Biden was able to give the shortest convention acceptance speech in history, and with no problem. If you prep, then that's no problem. It's every time Joe Biden starts to have an issue, it's when he's pushed back on. He made it through the Bernie Sanders debate before Super Tuesday or whatever it was, and that was not a problem because Bernie is a chump who didn't put any pressure on him, and in fact was never the candidate who did put pressure on him during all of the other Democratic debates. It was always Kamala Harris, or it was always Elizabeth Warren, or Pete Buttigieg used to kill him by saying, you know what, this guy's been here forever, 5 decades, he's going to change anything. That's when he stutters, because that's how early stages of dementia works. And I'm not going to play this game. Joe Biden is senile, but he's in early stages. And when you get softball questions, and when you're not challenged, and when you feel like you're doing good, so God help Trump if he gets a couple zingers and everything looks to be going well for him, because then he'll be, all right. I'm telling you, it's a big mistake to just think Joe Biden's going to have a heart attack and fall on the floor or something. Senility doesn't work that way. When you put pressure on somebody, it makes it worse. So he needs to make sure he's ready. And people who, look, Reagan, he made a major mistake with Walter Mondale. And these stupid things Nate Silver keeps putting up. Mondale was ahead of Reagan for a while. These stupid little things he puts up all the time. It was not until the second debate that Reagan recovered. All right? I love how they play these games with the polls and the times that they compare.
They manipulate the mind.
They manipulate and obfuscate. All right? Reagan was in the 30s in approval all through this, that whole year. And people were doubting whether Reagan had the mental capacity. And then he went out during the first debate, and it was bad. And it looked bad. That was the second debate, though.
I know. That's how he came back from it.
He came back in the second debate, and he said, I'm not going to make my opponent's age. I'm not going to make age a factor in this race. I'm not going to capitalize on my opponent's youth and inexperience. And, Bob Beckel and Pat Goodell, those are the old Democrat guys that really have some great stories. And, they just knew at that time, Pat Goodell too, he was like, damn, we lost. He knew it right then. He was like, it's over, and then sure enough, that is the night they tracked the next 3 to 5 days and Mondale collapsed. Now, I don't know that public opinion shifts the way it does, way it did back then. You know how I feel about that. But it will matter. It will matter. Trump needed to meet a bar in 2016. It was a very presidential bar. Our polling was very different than everybody else's, where people wanted to vote for Trump. They did, even though they didn't like him. They wanted to vote for him. They just weren't sure whether or not he would meet the presidential bar. In the first debate, it wasn't great. It was entertaining. In the second debate, he was under so much pressure. The Billy Bush tape just dropped. He was under so much pressure. And let's be real, he handled her in that town hall. And under all of that pressure, we could see it in the polling. People were like, if he could go out there in the middle of this and do that, he's met the bar. And that's when it really all just started to fall apart for her. All right. But that wasn't until the second debate. All right. All right. Last one.
All right.
Oops, sorry.
I'm going to butcher your name. I apologize. Styrian, Styrian. How is the SCOTUS battle changing or helping each party? Just heard huge money for the Democrats.
Yeah, but those votes that come out and vote, it is money. But as far as voters, it never changes much on the equation it never changes much on the Democratic side of the equation because those voters are always coming out to vote anyway. They do. Those are their abortion voters. They know that they vote. Really, how it could impact this election now is when we pulled the Rust Belt. Evangelicals were a little bit less of the vote than they were last time. Now they're getting more juiced. There were certain value voters and stuff like that we're really buying into what we over here call the decency argument that Biden has been making. They before had the luxury of doing that. They're not decided. They are soft Biden votes. They are not hardline. My mind's made up. That's it. They're soft Biden votes. Everyone who's voting for Donald Trump is voting for Donald Trump. They are not going to change their mind. And then that's why we do see there's a few percentage points more of truly persuadable voters this time around because there are voters like that who voted for Trump in 2016 who are persuadable this time around. They're not many, but he needs them. And this time, what's going on with the nomination, it could change the calculation or the equation, whatever you want to call it, to favor Trump if they play this right. Because when it's all on the line, people tend to make decisions that they wouldn't otherwise make. Mm-hmm. All right. So now it's like, do you believe in unfettered abortion or do you not? Right? Do you believe in religious freedom or do you not? Before it was easy to say, well, Joe's kind of a moderate. I don't think our religion's under any threat. Now it is. Now it is. Mm-hmm. So, and they know it. And they know it. I can't tell you how many evangelicals in our church alone voted for Donald Trump but don't like him. And they were looking for an excuse not to vote for him again. They just don't think he's they don't like his style, guys. I told you, it doesn't always appeal to everybody like it may appeal to you if you're a strong Trump voter. This time, now that the court is up again, they are those kinds of voters. They are those kinds of voters. And I bet that may even be the difference, Laura, between the mom. I don't know when the Monmouth poll is in the field, but that may be the difference between the Monmouth poll. Because I know Nate Cohen ended that. He takes forever to crunch data. It does take time to process data, but I don't know what they're doing over at the New York Times for 4 days with those responses. But that may be the difference between the Seltzer and the Monmouth poll. That may be the difference between a tie and Trump +6. It may be. In the end, it may not change the polls all that much because their problem has always been determining who is going to vote because they can't reach everybody. And they don't know how to do it. And until, we went whole thing about the Fox poll. All right. But it's 12:20. On that note, let's take it out. All right. Again, I will tweet it out. 6:45 tonight, the Lars Larson show. Don't miss it. All right. Don't miss it. That should be a fun one. And then I did just get the new updated list of all the, appearances. I will send it out to you on Twitter. Okay. Lastly, before we go, because in the interest of transparency, let me give you a last total before we leave on how much you guys have raised. All right. It may not have changed since the last time. It may have. Let's see. Did it change? Nope. So that is the total. Okay. We're well on our way. All right. And I will have some by Tuesday. We should at least have some insight for you. Okay. We will. And what else? What are the odds? 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday. Don't forget, Inside the Numbers will start at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday because I have a taped interview with The Hill that I'm doing, and then another one which I will show you when I tweet out. I didn't even get that information yet. I just say yes. Some of them are left wing, some of them are right wing. I like this. I mean, that's the way it should be. I will say no to nobody. To nobody. I don't think there's anybody I wouldn't. Right? unless it's like somebody I personally don't like. But I don't think so. I think I'd still go on and debate them too. All right. So again, thanks for watching Inside the Numbers, everyone. Have a safe and happy weekend. Do not forget to like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Facebook, and do not forget to subscribe to the page on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, let you know when we're going to go live. All right, so you don't miss anything. Again, the best way to support the show, of course, is to subscribe to PPD, which you could do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. To all of you who have done so already, thank you. As always, we met our initial target already, and we are on the verge, on the cusp of hitting the second one. Might wind up making this worth it at some point. Right? And then, of course, everyone who gave to the Florida poll, that again is incredibly humbling. And that is paypal.me/People's Pundit. It's in the YouTube thing. We're almost there. All right, so I'm going to kick rocks again. Have a safe and healthy weekend, and you will see me on Tuesday if you don't watch What Are the Odds, but you will see Inside the Numbers Tuesday at 11. All the best, folks.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker,